1 through 12. This is in your song sheet if you'd like to follow along. It says, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. When he had called together all the people's chief priests and teachers of the law, he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. "In Bethlehem in Judea," they replied, "for this is what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me so that I too may go and worship him." After they had heard the king, they went on their way. And the star they had seen when it rose went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshiped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. The word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
Well, friends, not only is this a new year, 2024, and hopefully for many of us it's better than 2023, but it's also Epiphany this morning. And Epiphany in the Western Christian tradition, also called Three Kings Day, is when the Magi or the wise men followed the star and found Jesus and gave the gifts. And this is a representation of Jesus's physical manifestation to people. In a more practical sense, right, we can ask ourselves, okay, Christmas is over, Jesus has been born, now what, right? There always seems to be a little bit of a letdown. There's a lot of build up to Christmas, a lot of anticipation, and then after Christmas, what next? Also, Epiphany kicks us off on the journey eventually to Ash Wednesday and Lent and Easter. So this is an opportunity for us to ask, before we get into Lent, now what? You know, it's hard to believe that 2023 is over. For many of us, it's been a difficult year. It's also been a difficult year in the life of our church. As I mentioned at the beginning of the service, in August, our beloved pastor transitioned to a wonderful new opportunity for her and her family, which we're so grateful for. But to be honest, many of us have grieved that. I have also grieved that. I've grieved this loss, and it has produced a large amount of anxiety within me, and I'm already prone to anxiety. So we now must all answer the question together, the same question that I just mentioned: what's next? And while it's easy to say some of the cliche but true things, like God is with us, right? That we have never been left alone, that Hot Meadow has been in difficult situations before, and God has always seemed to provide. And those things are true, but they don't give me the one thing that I really want: the details, right? Okay, yes, I believe that God is with us. I believe that God is going to lead us to the next chapter. But how, right? What does that look like? Give me the details, God. Give me just one detail, right? And I think that a lot of us resonate with this. You know, we believe that God is with us. We believe that he has a plan, but we want to know the details, right? I'll be honest, for me, this is, at least in part, a desire for control. It's a desire to know for certain what's going to happen. I get anxious when I don't feel like I'm in control. And so I have this craving inside to know exactly what's going to happen next. And I wonder, as we read this story this morning, I wonder if the Magi or the wise men also felt an anxiety when they were shown this star to follow. Got to be honest, not many details there, was there? Right? God says, hey, here's this star, follow it. And they did. They just got up and they followed it. I admire their faith, and it also terrifies me to think of myself in their position. But this morning I know that they trusted God. And I know that we are called to do the same, as hard as it is, and with as little details as we have. 2024 will be a big year for me personally. My wife and I are expecting our first child in May, so thanks be to God, and Lord have mercy. Thank you. But it's also going to be a big year in the life of this faith community. Council has been working diligently with the presbytery to find whatever is next for Hot Meadow. We've been praying and discerning and having lots of conversations and meetings about what this will look like. And we wish we had some more details for you this morning. The truth is we don't, not yet. There's been some positive steps. We have taken concrete actions to get our next pastor in, and we'll be sharing some more information when we give our update in January about that. So we are getting somewhere, and we do believe that God is up to something, even though we don't quite know yet what that is. So it's a big year in the life of our community. And even though we don't know what's next, we are trusting God to lead and to guide us into his will. Truthfully, we don't have any other choice. And this morning, we'd like to invite you to do the same. One of the best gifts that Pastor Aaron, who was the former pastor of our church, gave to me that I ever received was this tradition that I didn't know about called Star Words. Star Words is a practice that has started to take hold in a lot of Protestant churches over the past few years. Another word for this is intention words, right? This idea of choosing a word that you will hold sacred throughout the year and that you will be intentional about living into. Last year, if you've come to Hot Meadow the past few years, we've participated in this practice. I've got to admit, I was a little wary at first, right? Like perhaps some of you all, I get wary when I hear about resolutions at this time of year, right? Ad nauseum, there's advertisements. This is your year. If you want to make changes, you can do it. And it's just on, right? Resolutions in and of themselves are a good thing, but a lot of times there's some inauthenticity, I think, with that. And so I was a little bit wary. It sounded a little bit like that to me. I was like, I don't know, intention words. It sounds a little woo-woo. I'm not sure if I'm into it. But I say that it's a gift for a couple of reasons. First of all, there's some theological underpinnings of this. And I'll share those now. First of all, the wise men followed a star which ultimately led them to Jesus, right? We also want to use all the resources that are available to us, including creative prayer practices like this, and intention words for the new year, with the goal of moving closer to Jesus, right? We trust that God uses multiple ways to guide us and to speak to us. Star words are one such lens that might provide us a way to look for God in our midst. We also know that it's often easy to miss God in the day-to-day, isn't it? So having an intention word to consider helps us to be present and reflect. We know that the most common prayer practice for many involves speaking to God as opposed to silence or contemplation. So these star words sort of invite a new rhythm for people, right? That posture of listening instead of always speaking. And then finally, by not looking or sorting through the star words in advance, you kind of open space for God to move. I'll give you an example of this. Last year, just like this year, we had a table set up. We have all the star words face down. And, like I mentioned, I like control. I tend to be anxious when I don't have control. And so I challenged myself to just pick a word, right? Just let God speak, pick a word, let go of control and see what happens. And I was astonished when I picked my word because it was the very thing that I needed. My word last year was today. And it was the very thing that I needed because of my anxiety, I have a very difficult time being present. right? I spend so much time feeling shame or regret about the past, so much time worrying or being fearful of the future that I'm not present in today, right? And so having that reminder was a powerful way for me to remind myself to be present, right? Give us today our daily bread. Today, our daily bread, right? So it astounded me. It was like the exact word I needed. I was like, okay, there might be something here. So and later on in the service, during our communion time, we are going to engage in this practice of star words. We're going to offer you a couple of options for how you'd like to do it. So when it is time for communion, we'll all come forward. The elements are set up. We'll sing a communion song. We'll say a communion prayer. And then after you grab the elements, we will invite you to do one of a few things. The words right now are on the table face down. So first of all, you're invited to randomly pick a word, trusting that that word is the exact word that you need for this upcoming year and working to live into that word, okay? If that makes you anxious, that's totally okay. We also invite you, if you'd like to have some agency in choosing your own word, then we invite you to look through a couple of them and maybe choose one that speaks to you. If you're feeling really ambitious, maybe you want to pick up 2 words or 3. But maybe one is enough. And so however you feel comfortable doing that, we invite you to do that this year. And then we'll say a closing prayer of intention as we move into 2024. Sound good? Okay. Before we get to communion, though, we will do a quick reflection song, which, spoiler alert, is We Three Kings, based on the scripture today. And then we'll move into a time of prayers of the people where we'll share together in the life of the community.